Now, for years, Keir Starmer has built his career on a firm commitment to human rights law. He's repeatedly defended the European Convention on Human Rights, the ECHR, and even as Prime Minister, he's vowed that Britain will never, ever leave the ECHR. But now, with Nigel Farage and Reform UK gaining ground in the polls, averaging 26% of the vote in the latest polls, Keir Starmer's government is showing signs of shifting, maybe, its stance on the ECHR, raising the question, is this a genuine strategic move to counter Reform's appeal, or indeed does Keir Starmer believe what we're reading in the newspapers today? Labour is not proposing to leave the ECHR outright, however, as Reform has called for. But there are clearly signs of internal debate about how the ECHR applies, particularly Article 8, the right to family life. Now, on this show, we've often talked about how that right to a family life has often been used to challenge deportations of foreign criminals and illegal migrants. Some in government suggest that British courts may be interpreting these provisions too rigidly, opening the door for potential tweaks of laws or revised guidance to limit what they call the exploitation of the system. Indeed, just today we learned of yet another case, a shocking case actually, that I also shared on X within Britain's immigration system. Get this, a Pakistani man convicted of sexually assaulting a woman was allowed to remain in the UK after claiming that he was gay, despite providing little evidence to support his claim. Having lived in the country illegally for over a decade, he applied for asylum shortly after his conviction, arguing that deportation would put him at risk were he returned to Pakistan. Another crazy case. The Home Office initially rejected his claims, but due to a legal oversight, the case went unchallenged in court, allowing him to stay, and is now set for a retrial. With over 34,000 cases currently backlogged, many involving similar human rights claims, the government faces mounting pressure to tighten these asylum rules. And the timing is telling. Nigel Farage and Reform have built significant momentum in the polls. They're now ahead of the Conservatives consistently, averaging 26% of the vote, 220,000 party members, many people out there deeply frustrated with the current direction of immigration and asylum. And obviously Keir Starmer and Labour are now seeing this shift, including in many Labour heartlands, like that upcoming by-election in Runcorn in northern England. Again, a poll today suggesting Reform is on course to win that by-election. So is Keir Starmer now going to be changing his view on this question of the ECHR? It could, of course, spark a considerable backlash from people within the Labour Party, many of whom will see this as yet more evidence that Keir Starmer is drifting to the right rather than the left. Indeed, Labour's left-wing flank is already uneasy about cuts to welfare, cuts to foreign aid, and further concessions on these human rights laws could deepen those divisions. But some in Keir Starmer's circle may see this as a necessary political calculation, much like how in 2021 Keir Starmer shifted his approach after a poor showing at the Hartlepool by-election. So is Labour genuinely rethinking its position on the ECHR, or is this an attempt to neutralise Reform's growing influence?